Super cool book here. It's called a biography because it's about a person. It is nonfiction. And this person's name is Jane Goodall. This book was written by Karen Mockler. Jane Goodall, written by Karen Mockler. Table of contents: The Watcher, Off to Africa, Into the Forest, The Gumby Gang, Trouble in the Forest, Jane Goodall Today. Glossary. Jane Goodall grew up in a seaside town in England. At the time, most young girls were expected to live quiet lives at home. The Watcher. Jane Goodall was born in England in 1934. As a child, she liked to learn about animals. She liked to watch how they behaved. Jane loved to read colorful stories about jungle animals. She dreamed of living in Africa. Jane was sure that one day she wanted to live with animals and write stories about them. Young Jane with her dog Rusty. Jane loved to play with her pets, climb trees, and read. She wanted a life of travel and adventure. Off to Africa! When Jane finished school, she went to work in an office. She saved the money she earned there. When she saved enough, Jane took a trip to Kenya in Africa. In Kenya, she met Dr. Louis Leakey. Leakey was a scientist who wanted to learn how apes might be like humans. So apes are a type of monkey, right? And the scientist thinks that apes have similarities to humans. Dr. Leakey hired Jane to work with him. One day he talked about doing a new kind of study. The study would be about chimpanzees in Tanzania. Dr. Leakey was looking for a person to help him. That person would watch how the chimps lived and write reports. He asked if Jane would like to do the study with him. Part of Jane's work was to watch and report on what the chimps did during the normal day. Into the forest. This is Tanzania. And this is Kenya, where she went originally. Jane moved to Gombe, a forest in Tanzania. She watched the chimps every day. She wrote careful notes about what she saw. Jane saw that the chimps lived in family groups. In her notes, she gave each family member a name. The Gombe Gang. At first, many of the chimps were afraid of Jane. An older chimp she named David trusted Jane. One day, David let Jane meet his family. She watched them and wrote reports on how they behaved. Her reports upset many old beliefs. The woman who named things. Some scientists doubted Goodall's findings. They didn't believe that chimps had feelings or were very smart. They certainly didn't think a serious scientist should give personal names to animals she studied. So, traditional or old beliefs are things that people have believed for a long time. And since Jane is kind of saying things that didn't really go with what they believed, that's why they were upset. At the time, most people believed that chimps ate only plants. Jane saw David's family eat meat. Most people believe that chimps weren't smart enough to use simple tools. Jane saw David use a stick to poke into a termite hill to reach a termite snack. That was smart. Jane reported that David used the stick as a tool to get food. Her words upset many scientists because they thought only people could make or use tools. A Gombe chimp eats a termite snack. So this isn't David, this is just another chimp that was doing the same thing as David, which is also pretty impressive. Jane with her husband and their son. Their photographs and movies of chimps were seen all over the world. Other chimps also began to trust Jane and let her watch them. She reported chimp behavior that no one else had ever seen before. Jane said that each chimp behaved in its own way, just as humans do. She saw chimps being happy, sad, angry, and loving, just as humans are. Jane's report surprised many people. Her work made many scientists think that their old ideas about the species might be wrong. Trouble in the forest. After living in Gombe for many years, Jane began to worry. She saw that many of the forests were being cut down. The chimps were losing their homes. Some people were even hunting the chimps for food. Hunters were also stealing baby chimps to sell them. Some older chimps were sold to labs for experiments. Mother chimpanzee protects her baby in the Gombe forest, Tanzania. Jane spoke to groups of people who could change public opinion. Her work in Gombe gained worldwide attention. Jane was afraid that the Gombe chimps might all die. She knew that she had to tell people what was happening in the Gombe forest. Jane began to travel and talk with large groups of people. She asked them to help her save the chimps and the forest. People trusted Jane and listened to her. They agreed to support her work in Gombe. Jane Goodall's patient, caring work has uncovered important new information that she has shared with the world. Jane Goodall today. More than 50 years have passed since Jane Goodall first went to Tanzania. Today, she still meets with people all over the world. She talks about her work there. When she can, she returns to her Gombe home. She walks into the forest and sits down quietly. She smiles as she watches the chimps. Jane Goodall programs. In 1977, Jane Goodall set up the Jane Goodall Institute. The Jane Goodall Institute gives money to scientists who study chimps in the world. It also teaches people living near wild places how to help protect the wildlife in their area. In 1991, Jane Goodall began the Roots and Shoots program. The Roots and Shoots program began in Tanzania with just 12 local teens. Today, it operates in more than 120 countries and has thousands of members. The main goal of Roots and Shoots is to educate young people about problems that exist around them. To learn more, go to www.rootsandshoots.org and www.janegoodall.org. I hope you guys enjoyed this book and learned a lot. Some words in the glossary are Africa, apes, behaved, chimpanzees, notes, scientist, species, study, and tools. Bye, guys.